Sahih al-Bukhari Times of the Prayers. Sahih al-Bukhari Times of the Prayers narrated Ibn Shihab. Once Umar bin Abdul Aziz delayed the prayer and Urwa bin Az-Zubair went to him and said, once in Iraq, Al-Mughira bin Shu'bah delayed his prayers and Abi Mas'ud al-Ansari went to him and said, O Mughira, what is this? Don't you know that once Gabriel came and offered the prayer, Fajr prayer, and Allah's messenger prayed too. Then he prayed again, Zuhr prayer. And so did Allah's apostle and again he prayed. Asr prayers and Allah's messenger did the same. Again he prayed. Maghrib prayer. And so did Allah's messenger and again prayed. Isha prayer. And so did Allah's apostle and Gabriel said, I was ordered to do so, to demonstrate the prayers prescribed to you. Umar bin Abdul Aziz said to Urwa, be sure of what you say. Did Gabriel lead Allah's messenger at the stated times of the prayers? Urwa replied, Bashir bin Abi Mas'ud narrated like this on the authority of his father. Urwa added, Aisha told me that Allah's messenger used to pray Asr prayer when the Sahih al-Bukhari 521, 522 reference 9 Hadith 1. Sahih al-Bukhari Times of the Prayers Sunshine was still inside her residence during the early time of Asr. Sahih al-Bukhari 521, 522 reference 9 Hadith 1. Sahih al-Bukhari Times of the Prayers narrated Ibn Abbas. Once a delegation of Abdul Qais came to Allah's messenger and said, we belong to such and such branch of the tribe of Rabia and we can only come to you in the sacred months. Order us to do something good so that we may take it from you and also invite to it those whom we have left behind, at home. So he said, I order you to do 4 things and forbid you from 4 things. To believe in Allah. And then he explained it to them to testify that none has the right to be worshipped but Allah and that I am Allah's messenger, to establish the prayers, at the stated times, to pay the zakat, obligatory charity, to hand me the kumis. 5th, if you acquire spoils of war. And I forbid from using dubba, hantam, makair, and nakir. All these were utensils used for the preparation of alcoholic drinks. Sahih al-Bukhari 523 reference 9 Hadith 2. Sahih al-Bukhari Times of the Prayers narrated Jarir bin Abdullah. I gave the pledge of allegiance to Allah's messenger for to offer prayers perfectly, to pay zakat regularly, and to give good advice to every Muslim. Sahih al-Bukhari 524 reference 9 Hadith 3. Sahih al-Bukhari Times of the Prayers narrated Shakik. That he had heard Hudhayfa saying, once I was sitting with Umar and he said, who amongst you remembers the statement of Allah's messenger about the afflictions? I said, I know it as the Prophet had said it. Umar said, no doubt you are bold. I said, the afflictions caused for a man by his wife, money, children and neighbor are expiated by his prayers, fasting, charity and by enjoining what is good, and forbidding what is evil. Umar said, I did not mean that but I asked about that affliction which will spread like the waves of the sea. I, Hudhayfa, said, O leader of the faithful believers, you need not be afraid of it as there is a closed door between you and it. Umar asked, will the door be broken or opened? I replied, it will be broken. Umar said, then it will never be closed again. I was asked whether Umar knew that door. I replied that he knew it as one knows that there will be night before the tomorrow morning. I narrated a hadith that was free from any misstatement. Sahih al-Bukhari 525 reference 9 Hadith 4. Sahih al-Bukhari Times of the Prayers. The subnarrator added that they deputized Masruq to ask Hudhayfa about the door. Hudhayfa said, the door was Umar himself. Sahih al-Bukhari 525 reference 9 Hadith 4. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Ibn Mas'ud. A man kissed a woman, unlawfully, and then went to the Prophet and informed him. Allah revealed, and offer prayers perfectly at the two ends of the day and in some hours of the night. That is the 5 compulsory prayers. Verily, good deeds remove, annul, the evil deeds, small sins. 11.114. The man asked Allah's Messenger, "Is it for me?" He said, "It is for all my followers." Sahih al-Bukhari 526 Reference 9 Hadith 5. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Abdullah. I asked the Prophet which deed is the dearest to Allah. He replied, to offer the prayers at their early stated fixed times. I asked, what is the next, in goodness? He replied, to be good and dutiful to your parents. I again asked, what is the next, in goodness? He replied, to participate in jihad, religious fighting, in Allah's cause. Abdullah added, I asked only that much, and if I had asked more, the Prophet would have told me more. Sahih al-Bukhari 527 Reference 9 Hadith 6. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Abu Huraira. I heard Allah's Messenger saying, if there was a river at the door of any one of you and he took a bath in it 5 times a day, would you notice any dirt on him? They said, not a trace of dirt would be left. The Prophet added, that is the example of the 5 prayers with which Allah blots out, annuls, evil deeds. Sahih al-Bukhari 528 Reference 9 Hadith 7. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Gailan. Anas said, I do not find, nowadays, things as they were practiced at the time of the Prophet. Somebody said the prayer is as it was. Anas said, have you not done in the prayer what you have done? Sahih al-Bukhari 529 Reference 9 Hadith 8. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated as Zuhri that he visited Anas bin Malik at Damascus and found him weeping and asked him why he was weeping. He replied, I do not know anything which I used to know during the lifetime of Allah's Apostle except this prayer which is being lost, not offered as it should be. Sahih al-Bukhari 530 Reference 9 Hadith 9. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Anas. The Prophet said, whenever any one of you offers his prayer he is speaking in private to his Lord. So he should not spit to his right but under his left foot. Qatada said, he should not spit in front of him but to his left or under his feet. And Shu'bah said, he should not spit in front of him, nor to his right but to his left or under his foot. Anas said, the Prophet said, he should neither spit in the direction of his Qibla nor to his right but to his left or under his foot. Sahih al-Bukhari 531 Reference 9 Hadith 10. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Anas. The Prophet said, do the prostration properly and do not put your forearms flat with elbows touching the ground like a dog. And if you want to spit, do not spit in front, nor to the right, for the person in prayer is speaking in private to his Lord. Sahih al-Bukhari 532 Reference 9 Hadith 11. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Abu Huraira and Abdullah bin Umar. Allah's Messenger said, if it is very hot, then pray the Zuhr prayer when it becomes a bit cooler, as the severity of the heat is from the raging of the hell fire. Sahih al-Bukhari 533, 534 Reference 9 Hadith 12. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Abu Dar. The Muaddin, call-maker, of the Prophet pronounced the Adhan, call, for the Zuhr prayer, but the Prophet said, let it be cooler, let it be cooler. Or said, wait, wait, because the severity of heat is from the raging of the hellfire. In severe hot weather, pray when it becomes a bit cooler and the shadows of hillocks appear. Sahih al-Bukhari 535 reference 9 Hadith 13. Sahih al-Bukhari, Times of the Prayers narrated Abu Huraira. The Prophet said, in very hot weather delay the Zuhr prayer till it becomes a bit cooler because the severity of heat is from the raging of the hellfire. The hellfire of hell complained to its Lord saying, O Lord, my parts are eating, destroying one another. So Allah allowed it to take 2 breaths, one in the winter and the other in the summer. The breath in the summer is at the time when you feel the severest heat, and the breath in the winter is at the time when you feel the severest cold. Sahih al-Bukhari 536, 537 reference 9 Hadith 14. Sahih al-Bukhari, Times of the Prayers narrated Abu Sa'id. That Allah's Messenger said, pray Zuhr prayer when it becomes a bit cooler as the severity of heat is from the raging of the hellfire. Sahih al-Bukhari 538 reference 9 Hadith 15. Sahih al-Bukhari, Times of the Prayers narrated Abu Dar al-Ghifar. We were with the Prophet on a journey and the muaddin, call-maker for the prayer, wanted to pronounce the adhan, call, for the Zuhr prayer. The Prophet said, let it become cooler. He again, after a while, wanted to pronounce the adhan, but the Prophet said to him, let it become cooler till we see the shadows of hillocks. The Prophet added, the severity of heat is from the raging of the hellfire, and in very hot weather pray Zuhr when it becomes cooler. Sahih al-Bukhari 539 reference 9 Hadith 16. Sahih al-Bukhari, Times of the Prayers narrated Anas bin Malik. Allah's Messenger came out as the sun declined at midday and offered the Zuhr prayer. He then stood on the pulpit and spoke about the hour, day of judgment, and said that in it there would be tremendous things. He then said, whoever likes to ask me about anything he can do so, and I shall reply as long as I am at this place of mine. Most of the people wept, and the Prophet said repeatedly, ask me. Abdullah bin Hudafa as-Sami stood up and said, who is my father? The Prophet said, your father is Hudafa. The Prophet repeatedly said, ask me. Then Umar knelt before him and said, we are pleased with Allah as our Lord, Islam as our religion, and Muhammad peace be upon him as our prophet. The Prophet then became quiet and said, paradise and hellfire were displayed in front of me on this wall just now, and I have never seen a better thing than the former, and a worse thing than the latter. Sahih al-Bukhari 540 reference 9 Hadith 17. Sahih al-Bukhari, Times of the Prayers narrated Abu al-Minhal. Abu Barza said, the Prophet used to offer the Fajr prayer when one could recognize the person sitting by him after the prayer, and he used to recite between 60 to 100 ayat, verses, of the Quran. He used to offer the Zuhr prayer as soon as the sun declined, at noon, and the Asr at a time when a man might go and return from the farthest place in Medina and find the sun still hot. The sub-narrator forgot what was said about the Maghrib. He did not mind delaying the Isha prayer to 1/3 of the night or the middle of the night. Sahih al-Bukhari 541 reference 9 Hadith 18. Sahih al-Bukhari, Times of the Prayers narrated Anas bin Malik. When we offered the Zuhr prayers behind Allah's Messenger, we used to prostrate on our clothes to protect ourselves from the heat. Sahih al-Bukhari 542 reference 9 Hadith 19. Sahih al-Bukhari, Times of the Prayers narrated Ibn Abbas. The Prophet prayed 8 rak'at for the Zuhr and Asr, and 7 for the Maghrib and Isha prayers in Medina. Ayub said, perhaps those were rainy nights. Anas said, maybe. Sahih al-Bukhari 543 Reference 9 Hadith 20. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Aisha. Allah's Messenger used to offer the Asr prayer when the sunshine had not disappeared from my chamber. Sahih al-Bukhari 544 Reference 9 Hadith 21. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Aisha. Allah's Messenger used to offer the Asr prayers at a time when the sunshine was still inside my chamber and no shadow had yet appeared in it. Sahih al-Bukhari 545 Reference 9 Hadith 22. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Aisha. The Prophet used to pray the Asr prayers at a time when the sunshine was still inside my chamber and no shadow had yet appeared in it. Sahih al-Bukhari 546 Reference 9 Hadith 23. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Sayyar bin Salama. I along with my father went to Abu Barza al-Aslami and my father asked him how Allah's Messenger used to offer the 5 compulsory congregational prayers. Abu Barza said, the Prophet used to pray the Zuhr prayer which you, people, call the first one at midday when the sun had just declined, the Asr prayer at a time when after the prayer, a man could go to the house at the farthest place in Medina, and arrive, while the sun was still hot. I forgot about the Maghrib prayer. The Prophet loved to delay the Isha which you call al-Atama, and he disliked sleeping before it and speaking after it. After the Fajr prayer he used to leave when a man could recognize the one sitting beside him, and he used to recite between 60 to 100 ayat in the Fajr prayer. Sahih al-Bukhari 547 Reference 9 Hadith 24. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Anas bin Malik. We used to pray the Asr prayer, and after that if someone happened to go to the tribe of Bani Amr bin Auf, he would find them still praying the Asr prayer. Sahih al-Bukhari 548 Reference 9 Hadith 25. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Abu Bakr bin Uthman bin Sal bin Hunayf. That he heard Abu Umama saying, we prayed the Zuhr prayer with Umar bin Abdul Aziz and then went to Anas bin Malik and found him offering the Asr prayer. I asked him, O uncle, which prayer have you offered? He said the Asr, and this is the time of the prayer of Allah's apostle which we used to pray with him. Sahih al-Bukhari 549 Reference 9 Hadith 26. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Anas bin Malik. Allah's Messenger used to offer the Asr prayer at a time when the sun was still hot and high, and if a person went to Al-Awali, a place of Medina, he would reach there when the sun was still high. Some of Al-Awali of Medina were about 4 miles or so from the town. Sahih al-Bukhari 550 Reference 9 Hadith 27. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Anas bin Malik. We used to pray the Asr, and after that if one of us went to Kuba he would arrive there while the sun was still high. Sahih al-Bukhari 551 Reference 9 Hadith 28. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Ibn Umar. Allah's Messenger said, whoever misses the Asr prayer intentionally, then it is as if he lost his family and property. Sahih al-Bukhari 552 Reference 9 Hadith 29. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Abu al-Ma. We were with Buraida in a battle on a cloudy day, and he said, offer the Asr prayer early, as the Prophet said, whoever leaves the Asr prayer, all his good deeds will be annulled. Sahih al-Bukhari 553 Reference 9 Hadith 30. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Qais. Jarir said, We were with the Prophet and he looked at the moon, full moon, and said, Certainly you will see your Lord as you see this moon and you will have no trouble in seeing him. So if you can avoid missing, through sleep or business, etc., a prayer before the sunrise, Fajr, and a prayer before sunset, Asr, you must do so. He then recited Allah's statement, and celebrate the praises of your Lord before the rising of the sun and before its setting. 50.39, Ismail said, Offer those prayers and do not miss them. Sahih al-Bukhari 554 Reference 9 Hadith 31. Sahih al-Bukhari, Times of the Prayers narrated Abu Huraira. Allah's Messenger said, Angels come to you in succession by night and day and all of them get together at the time of the Fajr and Asr prayers. Those who have passed the night with you, or stayed with you, ascend to the heaven, and Allah asks them, though He knows everything about you, Well, in what state did you leave my slaves? The angels reply, When we left them they were praying and when we reached them, they were praying. Sahih al-Bukhari 555 Reference 9 Hadith 32. Sahih al-Bukhari, Times of the Prayers narrated Abu Huraira. Allah's Messenger said, If any one of you can get one rak'ah of the Asr prayer before sunset, he should complete his prayer. If any of you can get one rak'ah of the Fajr prayer before sunrise, he should complete his prayer. Sahih al-Bukhari 556 Reference 9 Hadith 33. Sahih al-Bukhari, Times of the Prayers narrated Salim bin Abdullah. My father said, I heard Allah's Messenger saying, The period of your stay as compared to the previous nations is like the period equal to the time between the Asr prayer and sunset. The people of the Torah were given the Torah and they acted upon it till midday, then they were exhausted and were given 1 karat of gold each. And then the people of the gospel were given the gospel and they acted upon it till the Asr prayer, then they were exhausted and were given 1 karat each. And then we were given the Quran and we acted upon it till sunset and we were given 2 karats each. On that the people of both the scriptures said, O our Lord, you have given them 2 karats and given us 1 karat, though we have worked more than they. Allah said, Have I usurped some of your right? They said, No. Allah said, That is my blessing I bestow upon whomsoever I wish. Sahih al-Bukhari 557 Reference 9 Hadith 34. Sahih al-Bukhari, Times of the Prayers narrated Abu Musa. The Prophet said, The example of Muslims, Jews and Christians is like the example of a man who employed laborers to work for him from morning till night. They worked till midday and they said, We are not in need of your reward. So the man employed another batch and said to them, Complete the rest of the day and yours will be the wages I had fixed for the first batch. They worked until the time of the Asr prayer and said, Whatever we have done is for you. He employed another batch. They worked for the rest of the day till sunset, and they received the wages of the 2 former batches. Sahih al-Bukhari 558 Reference 9 Hadith 35. Sahih al-Bukhari, Times of the Prayers narrated Rafi bin Khadij. We used to offer the Maghrib prayer with the Prophet and after finishing the prayer one of us may go away and could still see as far as the spots where one's arrow might reach when shot by a bow. Sahih al-Bukhari 559 Reference 9 Hadith 36. Sahih al-Bukhari, Times of the Prayers narrated Jabir bin Abdullah. The Prophet used to pray the Zuhr at midday, and the Asr at a time when the sun was still bright, the Maghrib after sunset, at its stated time, and the Isha at a variable time. Whenever he saw the people assembled for Isha prayer, he would pray earlier and if the people delayed, he would delay the prayer. And they or the Prophet used to offer the Fajr prayers when it's still dark. Sahih al-Bukhari 560 Reference 9 Hadith 37. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Salama. We used to pray the Maghrib prayer with the Prophet when the sun disappeared from the horizon. Sahih al-Bukhari 561 Reference 9 Hadith 38. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Ibn Abbas. The Prophet prayed 7 rak'at together and 8 rak'at together. Sahih al-Bukhari 562 Reference 9 Hadith 39. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Abdullah al-Muzani. The Prophet said, "Do not be influenced by Bedouin regarding the name of your Maghrib prayer which is called Isha by them." Sahih al-Bukhari 563 Reference 9 Hadith 40. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Abdullah. One night Allah's Messenger led us in the Isha prayer, and that is the one called al-Atma, by the people. After the completion of the prayer, he faced us and said, "Do you know the importance of this night? Nobody present on the surface of the earth tonight will be living after 100 years from this night." See Hadith number 575. Sahih al-Bukhari 564 Reference 9 Hadith 41. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Muhammad peace be upon him bin Amr. We asked Habir bin Abdullah about the prayers of the Prophet. He said, he used to pray Zuhr prayer at midday, the Asr when the sun was still hot, and the Maghrib after sunset, at its stated time. The Isha was offered early if the people gathered, and used to be delayed if their number was less, and the morning prayer was offered when it was still dark. Sahih al-Bukhari 565 Reference 9 Hadith 42. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Aisha. Allah's Messenger once delayed the Isha prayer, and that was during the days when Islam still had not spread. The Prophet did not come out till Umar informed him that the women and children had slept. Then he came out and said to the people of the mosque, "None amongst the dwellers of the earth has been waiting for it, Isha prayer, except you." Sahih al-Bukhari 566 Reference 9 Hadith 43. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Abu Musa. My companions, who came with me in the boat, and I landed at a place called Baqi. Buthan. The Prophet was in Medina at that time. One of us used to go to the Prophet by turns every night at the time of the Isha prayer. Once I along with my companions went to the Prophet, and he was busy in some of his affairs, so the Isha prayer was delayed to the middle of the night. He then came out and led the people in prayer. After finishing from the prayer, he addressed the people present there saying, "Be patient. Don't go away. Have the glad tiding. It is from the blessing of Allah upon you that none amongst mankind has prayed at this time save you." Or said, "None except you has prayed at this time." Abu Musa added, "So we returned happily after what we heard from Allah's Messenger." Sahih al-Bukhari 567 Reference 9 Hadith 44. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Abu Barza. Allah's Messenger disliked to sleep before the Isha prayer and to talk after it. Sahih al-Bukhari 568 Reference 9 Hadith 45. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Ibn Shihab from Urwa. Aisha said, once Allah's Messenger delayed the Isha prayer till Umar reminded him by saying, "The prayer. The women and children have slept." Then the Prophet came out and said, "None amongst the dwellers of the earth has been waiting for it, the prayer, except you." Urwa said, "Nowhere except in Medina the prayer used to be offered, in those days." He further said, "The Prophet used to offer the Isha prayer in the period between the disappearance of the twilight and the end of the first third of the night." Sahih al-Bukhari 569 Reference 9 Hadith 46. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the Prayers narrated Ibn Jurai from Nafi. Abdullah bin Umar said, "Once Allah's Messenger was busy, at the time of the Isha. So the prayer was delayed so much so that we slept and woke up and slept and woke up again. The Prophet came out and said, 'None amongst the dwellers of the earth but you have been waiting for the prayer.'" Ibn Umar did not find any harm in praying it earlier or in delaying it unless he was afraid that sleep might overwhelm him and he might miss the prayer, and sometimes he used to sleep before the Isha prayer. Ibn Jurai said, "I said to Atta, I heard Ibn Abbas saying, 'Once Allah's Messenger delayed the Isha prayer to such an extent that the people slept and got up and slept again and got up again. Then Umar bin al-Khattab stood up and reminded the Prophet of the prayer.'" Atta said, Ibn Abbas said, "The Prophet came out as if I was looking at him at this time, and water was trickling from his head and he was putting his hand on his head and then said, 'Hadn't I thought?'" Sahih al-Bukhari 570, 571 Reference 9 Hadith 47. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers it hard for my followers, I would have ordered them to pray Isha prayer at this time. I asked Atta for further information, how the Prophet had kept his hand on his head as he was told by Ibn Abbas. Atta separated his fingers slightly and put their tips on the side of the head, brought the fingers downwards approximating them till the thumb touched the lobe of the ear at the side of the temple and the beard on the face. He neither slowed nor hurried in this action, but he acted like that. The Prophet said, "Hadn't I thought it hard for my followers I would have ordered them to pray at this time." Sahih al-Bukhari 570, 571 Reference 9 Hadith 47. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the Prayers narrated Anas. The Prophet delayed the Isha prayer till midnight and then he offered the prayer and said, "The people prayed and slept but you have been in prayer as long as you have been waiting for it, the prayer." Anas added, "As if I am looking now at the glitter of the ring of the Prophet on that night." Sahih al-Bukhari 572 Reference 9 Hadith 48. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the Prayers narrated Jarir bin Abdullah. We were with the Prophet on a full moon night. He looked at the moon and said, "You will certainly see your Lord as you see this moon, and there will be no trouble in seeing him. So if you can avoid missing, through sleep, business, etc., a prayer before the rising of the sun, Fajr, and before its setting, Asr, you must do so." He, the Prophet, then recited the following verse, "And celebrate the praises of your Lord before the rising of the sun and before its setting." 50.39. Sahih al-Bukhari 573 Reference 9 Hadith 49. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the Prayers narrated Abu Bakr bin Abi Musa. My father said, Allah's Messenger said, "Whoever prays the two cool prayers, Asr and Fajr, will go to paradise." Sahih al-Bukhari 574 Reference 9 Hadith 50. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the Prayers narrated Anas. Zayd bin Thabit said, "We took the Sahur, the meal taken before dawn while fasting is observed, with the Prophet and then stood up for the morning prayer. I asked him how long the interval between the two, Sahur and prayer, was. He replied, the interval between the two was just sufficient to recite 50 to 6th ayat. Sahih al-Bukhari 575 Reference 9 Hadith 51. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the Prayers narrated Qatada. Anas bin Malik said, "The Prophet and Zayd bin Thabit took the Sahur together and after finishing the meal, the Prophet stood up and prayed, Fajr prayer. I asked Anas, how long was the interval between finishing their Sahur and starting the prayer? He replied, The interval between the two was just sufficient to recite 50 ayat. Verses of the Quran. Sahih al-Bukhari 576 Reference 9 Hadith 52. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Sal bin Sa'di. I used to take the Sahur meal with my family and hasten so as to catch the Fajr, morning prayer, with Allah's Messenger. Sahih al-Bukhari 577 Reference 9 Hadith 53. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Aisha. The believing women covered with their veiling sheets used to attend the Fajr prayer with Allah's apostle, and after finishing the prayer they would return to their home and nobody could recognize them because of darkness. Sahih al-Bukhari 578 Reference 9 Hadith 54. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Abu Hurairah. Allah's Messenger said, whoever could get 1 rak'ah of the Fajr prayer before sunrise, he has got the morning prayer, and whoever could get 1 rak'ah of the Asr prayer before sunset, he has got the Asr prayer. Sahih al-Bukhari 579 Reference 9 Hadith 55. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Abu Hurairah. Allah's Messenger said, whoever could get 1 rak'ah of a prayer in its proper time, he has got the prayer. Sahih al-Bukhari 580 Reference 9 Hadith 56. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Umar. The Prophet forbade praying after the Fajr prayer till the sun rises and after the Asr prayer till the sun sets. Narrated Ibn Abbas. Some people told me the same narration, as above. Sahih al-Bukhari 581 Reference 9 Hadith 57. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Hisham's father. Ibn Umar said, Allah's Messenger said, do not pray at the time of sunrise and at the time of sunset. Ibn Umar said, Allah's Messenger said, if the edge of the sun appears above the horizon, delay the prayer till it becomes high, and if the edge of the sun disappears, delay the prayer till it sets, disappears completely. Sahih al-Bukhari 582, 583 Reference 9 Hadith 58. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Abu Hurairah. Allah's Messenger forbade 2 kinds of sales, 2 kinds of dresses, and 2 prayers. He forbade offering prayers after the Fajr prayer till the rising of the sun and after the Asr prayer till its setting. He also forbade Ishtimal Asama and Al-Itiba in one garment in such a way that one's private parts are exposed towards the sky. He also forbade the sales called Munabada and Mulamasa. See Hadith number 354 and 355 Volume 3. Sahih al-Bukhari 584 Reference 9 Hadith 59. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Ibn Umar. Allah's Messenger said, none of you should try to pray at sunrise or sunset. Sahih al-Bukhari 585 Reference 9 Hadith 60. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Abu Sa'id al-Khudri. I heard Allah's Messenger saying, there is no prayer after the morning prayer till the sun rises, and there is no prayer after the Asr prayer till the sun sets. Sahih al-Bukhari 586 Reference 9 Hadith 61. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Muawiyah. You offer a prayer which I did not see being offered by Allah's Messenger when we were in his company, and he certainly had forbidden it. That is 2 rak'at after the Asr prayer. Sahih al-Bukhari 587 Reference 9 Hadith 62. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Abu Hurairah. Allah's Messenger forbade the offering of 2 prayers, -1. After the morning prayer till the sun rises. -2. After the Asr prayer till the sun sets. Sahih al-Bukhari 588 Reference 9 Hadith 63. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Ibn Umar. I pray as I saw my companions praying. I do not forbid praying at any time during the day or night except at sunset and sunrise. Sahih al-Bukhari 589 Reference 9 Hadith 64. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Aisha. By Allah, who took away the Prophet. The Prophet never missed them. 2 rakat, after the Asr prayer till he met Allah, and he did not meet Allah till it became heavy for him to pray while standing, so he used to offer most of the prayers while sitting. She meant the 2 rakat after Asr. He used to pray them in the house and never prayed them in the mosque lest it might be hard for his followers, and he loved what was easy for them. Sahih al-Bukhari 590 Reference 9 Hadith 65. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Hisham's father. Aisha, addressing me, said, O son of my sister. The Prophet never missed 2 prostrations, that is rakat, after the Asr prayer in my house. Sahih al-Bukhari 591 Reference 9 Hadith 66. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Aisha. Allah's Messenger never missed 2 rakat before the Fajr prayer and after the Asr prayer openly and secretly. Sahih al-Bukhari 592 Reference 9 Hadith 67. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Aisha. Whenever the Prophet come to me after the Asr prayer, he always prayed 2 rakat. Sahih al-Bukhari 593 Reference 9 Hadith 68. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Ibn Abu Mala. I was with Buraida on a cloudy day and he said, offer the Asr prayer earlier, as the Prophet said, whoever leaves the Asr prayer will have all his good deeds annulled. See Hadith number 527 and 528. Sahih al-Bukhari 594 Reference 9 Hadith 69. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Abdullah bin Abi Qatada. My father said, one night we were traveling with the Prophet and some people said, we wish that Allah's Messenger would take a rest along with us during the last hours of the night. He said, I am afraid that you will sleep and miss the Fajr prayer. Bilal said, I will make you get up. So all slept and Bilal rested his back against his rahila, and he too was overwhelmed by sleep and slept. The Prophet got up when the edge of the sun had risen and said, O Bilal, what about your statement? He replied, I have never slept such a sleep. The Prophet said, Allah captured your souls when he wished, and released them when he wished. O Bilal, get up and pronounce the adhan for the prayer. The Prophet performed ablution, and when the sun came up and became bright, he stood up and prayed. Sahih al-Bukhari 595 Reference 9 Hadith 70. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Habir bin Abdullah. On the day of Al-Khandaq, the Battle of Trench, Umar bin al-Khattab came cursing the disbelievers of Quraysh after the sun had set and said, O Allah's Messenger, I could not offer the Asr prayer till the sun had set. The Prophet said, by Allah, I, too, have not prayed. So we turned towards Buthan, and the Prophet performed ablution, and we too performed ablution and offered the Asr prayer after the sun had set, and then he offered the Maghrib prayer. Sahih al-Bukhari 596 Reference 9 Hadith 71. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Anas. The Prophet said, if anyone forgets a prayer, he should pray that prayer when he remembers it. There is no expiation except to pray the same. Then he recited, "Establish prayer for my," that is Allah's, remembrance. 20.14. Sahih al-Bukhari 597 Reference 9 Hadith 72. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Habir. Umar came cursing the disbelievers, of Quraysh, on the day of Al-Khandaq, the battle of Trench, and said, "I could not offer the Asr prayer till the sun had set. Then we went to Buthan and he offered the Asr prayer after sunset, and then he offered the Maghrib prayer." Sahih al-Bukhari 598 Reference 9 Hadith 73. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Abu al-Minhal. My father and I went to Abi Barza al-Aslami, and my father said to him, "Tell us how Allah's Messenger used to offer the compulsory congregational prayers." He said, "He used to pray the Zuhr prayer, which you call the first prayer, as the sun declined at noon, the Asr at a time when one of us could go to his family at the farthest place in Medina while the sun was still hot." The narrator forgot what Abu Barza had said about the Maghrib prayer, and the Prophet preferred to pray the Isha late and disliked to sleep before it or talk after it. And he used to return after finishing the morning prayer at such a time when it was possible for one to recognize the person sitting by his side, and he, the Prophet, used to recite 60 to 100 ayat, verses, of the Quran in it. Sahih al-Bukhari 599 Reference 9 Hadith 74. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Qurra bin Khalid. Once he waited for al-Hasan and he did not show up till it was about the usual time for him to start his speech. Then he came and apologized, saying, "Our neighbors invited us." Then he added, narrated Anas, "Once we waited for the Prophet till it was midnight or about midnight. He came and led the prayer, and after finishing it, he addressed us and said, 'All the people prayed and then slept, and you had been in prayer as long as you were waiting for it.'" Al-Hasan said, "The people are regarded as performing good deeds as long as they are waiting for doing good deeds." Al-Hasan's statement is a portion of Anas' hadith from the Prophet. Sahih al-Bukhari 600 Reference 9 Hadith 75. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Abdullah bin Umar. The Prophet prayed one of the Isha prayer in his last days, and after finishing it with Taslim, he stood up and said, "Do you realize the importance of this night? Nobody present on the surface of the earth tonight would be living after the completion of 100 years from this night." The people made a mistake in grasping the meaning of this statement of Allah's Messenger, and they indulged in those things which are said about these narrators. That is, some said that the day of resurrection will be established after 100 years, etc. But the Prophet said, "Nobody present on the surface of earth tonight would be living after the completion of 100 years from this night." He meant when that century, people of that century, would pass away. Sahih al-Bukhari 601 Reference 9 Hadith 76. Sahih al-Bukhari. Times of the prayers narrated Abu Uthman. Abdur Rahman bin Abi Bakr said, "The Sufa companions were poor people, and the Prophet said, 'Whoever has food for 2 persons should take a third one from them,' Sufa companions. And whosoever has food for 4 persons, he should take 1 or 2 from them. Abu Bakr took 3 men and the Prophet took 10 of them." Abdur Rahman added, "My father, my mother and I were there, in the house." The sub-narrator is in doubt whether Abdur Rahman also said, "My wife and our servant, who was common for both my house and Abu Bakr's house." Abu Bakr took his supper with the Prophet and remained there till the Isha prayer was offered. Abu Bakr went back and stayed with the Prophet till the Prophet took his meal, and then Abu Bakr returned to his house after a long portion of the night had passed. Abu Bakr's wife said, "What detained you from your guests, or guest?" He said, "Have you not served them yet?" She said, "They refused to eat until you come." The food was served for them, but Sahih al-Bukhari 602 reference 9 Hadith 77. Sahih al-Bukhari, times of the prayers they refused. Abdur Rahman added, I went away and hid myself, being afraid of Abu Bakr. And in the meantime Abu Bakr, called me, O Gunathar, a harsh word, and also called me bad names and abused me, and then said, to his family, eat. No welcome for you. Then, the supper was served. Abu Bakr took an oath that he would not eat that food. The narrator added, by Allah, whenever any one of us, myself and the guests of Sufa companions, took anything from the food, it increased from underneath. We all ate to our fill, and the food was more than it was before its serving. Abu Bakr looked at it, the food, and found it as it was before serving, or even more than that. He addressed his wife, saying, O the sister of Bani Furas, what is this? She said, O the pleasure of my eyes. The food is now 3 times more than it was before. Abu Bakr ate from it, and said, that oath was from Satan, meaning his oath, not to eat. Then he again took a morsel, mouthful, from it, and then took the rest of Sahih al-Bukhari 602 reference 9 Hadith 77. Sahih al-Bukhari, times of the prayers it to the Prophet. So that meal was with the Prophet. There was a treaty between us and some people, and when the period of that treaty had elapsed, the Prophet divided us into 12 groups, the Prophet's companions, each being headed by a man. Allah knows how many men were under the command of each leader. So all of them, 12 groups of men, ate of that meal. Sahih al-Bukhari 602 reference 9 Hadith 77.